Hello guys, I'm the Ben 10 car maker, and today we are reacting to part 3 of lowart reacting or giving his opinion about season 3, and I would defend season 3 if I have to, so let's begin.
Right into it. Going into Ben 10's third season, I had a couple big hopes. First, I wanted to see how Ben had changed following his revelations at the end of the previous season. Second, I wanted the show to do more creative things with the watch and continue to craft compelling, snappy conflicts around it. However, I will say that at this point in the story, I'm looking for something more. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the previous episodic plots have been plenty of fun, but there were also a lot that I looked at and went, at this stage in the game, I'm hoping that the show has found its footing enough that we no longer get those somewhat mediocre conflicts. And also, the alien gimmick was able to carry some of those for me at least a little bit. But now, well, I've seen these aliens quite a bit. I know what the watch is basically about. So less creative conflicts aren't really gonna cut it anymore for me. I'm looking for more from this show so that it can keep me engaged with a mostly episodic plot, or possibly maybe we'll even pull from season 1 and have a bit more of a consistent
My boy's watching Ben 10 wrong. Plot? Ben 10's about action. What are you?
arc for Ben.
Action
Actually,
first,
speaking of that,
story
another thing I
second.
want to see is these changes sticking for Ben. As I've said previously, I'm someone who really cares about how characters change across a series and about maintaining those changes. So if Ben forgets some lesson he's already learned, or if we reset his character, I'm gonna be pretty annoyed. Putting all that aside though, I'm still going to try and stay open to the
Season 3 Ben 10, he doesn't really do anything annoying, so if he complains about them fighting, I might have to jump in and be like, it's only a little bit, chill the fuck out. I might have to jump
show
in.
surprising me. For all I know, maybe they'll do something totally different from what I expected, but I'll end up loving it all the same. But here's the good news. Season 3's first episode is a great sign
It
for things
is.
to come. We begin with Ben and Gwen arguing because Ben didn't get a cake for Grandpa's birthday. His response to Gwen,
Excuse me, full-time hero here. When do I have time to go get some dumb old cake?
but then a future version of Gwen appears to take Gwen away and Ben chases after them. Here, we're introduced to a future Ben as well, and this Ben is very different from the one we know. He's extremely serious and has no fun anymore. He doesn't even name his aliens. On top of that, he's more or less abandoned his personal relationships, only talking with Gwen briefly and not saying a word to Grandpa. There's a very real sense that he's so focused on his duty to the world that he's forgotten how to connect with those closest to him. That by spending so much time as these alien heroes, he's lost what made him human in the first place. However, when Vilgax returns, even future Ben is unable to defeat him. Vilgax knows what each of his aliens can do and he counters their attacks. But then Ben says something to his future self.
He may know how all your aliens fight, but does he know what Ben Tennyson can do? I just hope after all this time, you haven't forgotten.
You know, it'd be so cool if one of the Alien Force aliens were shown here, and just like at least one, like maybe Swamp Fire or something.
Too.
From here, we see that green flash of future Ben transforming into an alien hero, except that he hasn't transformed into an alien hero. He's turned back into his human self. From here, he surprises Vilgax, gains the upper hand, and saves the day with the help of his friends. After this, it's time for Ben and Gwen to return to their time period, but not before future Ben gives him a mysterious gift. What is it? Well, when they return to Grandpa for his birthday, it opens up and reveals a cake. The cake Ben had almost forgotten to give him. Out of all the moral lessons in this show so far, this is probably the one that connects with me the most. There's so many different layers to it. There's the idea that even hyper-focusing on something seemingly good can lead to losing sight of the things that you care about. There's the sense that past Ben has developed so much that now he can teach his future self a new lesson. There's the cake symbolizing how no matter how busy we get in our lives, we shouldn't discard the people we love and the people who love us. Because that cake wasn't just some dumb old cake. It was a gesture of love for his grandpa. And all of this is wrapped up in a conflict
Spitter!
new designs for villains,
Oh my gosh.
bombastic fights with
One
fresh
shot.
aliens, and a look at a future Ben learning
Best
to make
alien
time
in
for
the
those he
world,
loves
dude.
again. This is easily one of Ben 10's best episodes yet. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the next episode. Here, Ben is hypnotized by a
Oh no, boys, I don't think I can defend this episode. I don't like this
supervillain who
episode either.
uses aliens for nefarious means. When this guy eventually hypnotizes a mall full of people, Ben then has to fight to free them.
Well, when he uses
Now,
Wildvine,
this
yeah,
episode
right there.
isn't terrible, but it's another one that's just kind of there. Watching it once is fine enough because it moves from scene to scene pretty fast and we get to see lots of aliens, but beyond that, there isn't much to dig into here. Personally, I would have loved to see Ben get a bit more worried for Gwen and Grandpa when they get hypnotized. That would have been one way to give this conflict more emotional depth. Or maybe the antagonist could have been more unique. After all, so far I think every main baddie has been a through and through villain. None of them have noble...
I mean, in my opinion, he's probably not worried because he knows the, damn it, I don't know, the hypnotized villain is probably just going to use them, not to hurt them, but use them to, like, gather stuff in the mall, so I don't know.
motivations or an overall good reason for doing what they're doing, even if they're going about it the wrong way. To be fair, villains who are bad for the sake of being bad can be a lot of fun, but we already have plenty of guys like that. At this stage, why not change it up a bit?
I mean, he has a plan, even though he's not the best villain. His plan's to, steal stuff in the mall, which is weird.
Either way, the next episode has the potential to do some pretty neat
He
stuff.
could have chose
This
the bank.
time, Charmcaster accidentally switches bodies with Gwen, resulting in Gwen.
This episode's great. This is the first episode that we see Gwen have that she gets her spell
Gwen being
book.
trapped in jail and Charmcaster trying to fool Ben and Grandpa. But here's my problem. Charmcaster hasn't gotten any more interesting to me. She's still a pretty generic, bland villain, though now she has some terrible dialogue where she narrates what we can already see happening.
Come into my parlor, said the spider to the stink fly.
Maybe that was supposed to be her new quirk to differentiate her from the crowd, but yeah, not a fan of that. Throughout the whole episode, we don't really...
I have to agree. Charmcaster, unfortunately, doesn't become a good character until Ultimate Alien,
learn
Force.
anything new about
Maybe
her,
Alien Force.
despite spending a good deal of time with her. The real frustrating thing with this episode, though, is how easy it is to imagine a more compelling version. Like, what if we went for a more emotional conflict, where Charmcaster starts off trying to trick Grandpa and Ben, but after spending time with them, she begins to appreciate them. After all...
Yeah, I really wanted that too, but hey. The only way I can defend Charmcaster is by saying, rough childhood. She probably doesn't have the... I don't know.
We already saw that her family seems pretty awful, so maybe this could have been a moment where she could grow, or she could
I
that
agree.
change, and then it would feel a bit tragic. Or alternatively, what if this body swapping gimmick went absolutely buck wild? Maybe Hex gets involved, and we've got Grandpa, Gwen, Charmcaster, Ben, and Hex all jumping bodies due to the spell going haywire. That's probably enough fan fiction, though. My only point is that it's so easy for me to think of ways to push this concept further, and yet the show does so little with it. Gwen doesn't really do all that much in prison. Charmcaster's relationship with Ben and Grandpa doesn't develop because of their interactions, and the body-swapping gimmick is only used for the very first swap, and then at the end when Ben and Gwen switch bodies. I know a lot of my complaints with this one are related to what could have been, and to some that might seem unfair. I mean, I should look at what's here, right? But my issue is that what's here, it isn't much to me. It doesn't connect,
I agree.
And I can't help but look at it and immediately think about all the other things they could have done. Next up, though, the Christmas...
I mean, the only thing I can defend about that episode is... I think Ink Tank has the same reason, too, is Gwen gets her spell book. I don't think he mentioned that. Which is actually very important.
Sharpie S Gel. High performance. Won't smear. Won't bleed.
Come on, ads. Come on, man.
Ends up in this...
I don't even know what I was going to say.
And soon, Grandpa's enlisted as the new Santa Claus.
I am sorry. I really, really like this episode, and if he says something bad about it, I might be able to defend it.
By the villainous Mr. Jingles. At the same time, if Ben and Gwen...
You know what? A lot of people, in my opinion, Ben and Gwen and Max are not the main characters of this episode. I think it's Goodman.
Stay here too long. They'll be trapped as elves forever. Now, I will give this episode one thing right away. The concept of Grandpa being Santa is inherently funny to me. This poor guy with his big belly and his red shirt just immediately forced to act as Santa got a couple decent laughs out of me. Other than that, the main way this episode attempts to make you care is with this elf who tries to help Ben and Gwen.
That's
in addition,
Goodman,
there's a
right?
change of heart for Mr. Jones.
Remember.
Unfortunately, while I appreciate these elements being here, this is another one where I just don't know enough about these characters to care about their growth. Like,
I mean, I have sympathy for Goodman, but
okay,
he's a I don't know. We know he's a good person. He plays around, helpful, strong. In my opinion, we don't have to know like their whole backstory and stuff.
hey, this guy named Mr. Jingles learned the incredibly cliched true meaning of Christmas message, but who is Mr. Jingles to me? Well, he's not really anyone. He's just some guy who needed to learn a really obvious lesson. Meanwhile, the elf who helps him says some odd words that confuse the kids, and he's all around a nice dude, but that's about it for defining character traits. It's not like this is terrible. I mean, I prefer having these guys in the episode to not having them at all, but I just wish there was more going on here. And unfortunately, the next episode isn't much better. This time, Ben...
No, you did not just say that. Bro, the action in this one is pretty good. Pretty good. Vine versus Space Wolf.
is hunting
Alien
an
Wolf.
alien werewolf of sorts, but then he starts transforming into one himself, and
I
he needs
liked
to act
it.
fast. Additionally, Ben meets this girl named Kai, who he's really into. For me, this one fails on a couple really basic levels.
Alright, what is
First
it?
off, there are a couple ideas that are brought up only to be discarded.
Like
For
what?
example, we see that women in this culture aren't allowed to go out and hunt or do certain things, and this gets a decent bit of emphasis.
Which is actually... It's in our textbooks. That's,
Then we just never come back to it,
It's not...
okay?
It's because... we don't go back to it because, well, it's part of history. I mean, women can't hunt. That's... Like, there's no need to go back. That's the answer. They can't hunt.
I thought we were going to use that for something.
No, we ain't.
Meanwhile, and this is the bigger one, Ben and Kai seem to get along decently when he's human. In fact, he even saves her life as a human. But when he starts transforming into a werewolf, she looks like she's having a terrible time dealing with him. However, at the end, when he's transformed back, she instead says that she only liked Ben when he was a werewolf because she felt like she
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up, Kai.
could tame him?
Yeah, that's kind
What?
of...
No, that's just not true. You can't show me that she's super annoyed with him, then turn around and pretend the exact opposite was the case. I don't believe that. And since this little relationship between them is a big focus in the episode, this is a pretty large issue. Other than that, I guess we get some decent little fights and
Yep.
stuff like that, but
Fight scenes are
there was nothing
fantastic.
to set it apart from other better episodes in this show that we've already seen. And the next episode is the same kind of deal. This
No, dude, this is the best episode.
time, Ben and Gwen are transported into the Sumo
Dude,
Slammer
this
video
episode's
game
so
where they need to fight their
awesome.
way out if they want to
I'm gonna
survive.
see what he's complaining
Remember how I
about.
said I wanted to see how Ben had grown as a character this
Listen, kids are kids. He's got...
season? Well, at least in the little moments, it really doesn't seem like he has. He's still a brat, and he cheats when his cousin beats
That's only for like a few seconds. Come on now.
him. And that might sound like a small thing, but at this point, I want to see a Ben who I can root for, the one I find likable, and these small moments don't help anything. Plus, he spends the whole time obsessing over gaining this video game character's admiration, and... Listen, I get the idea here. Ben has his blinders on because he's hyper-focused on this guy. Then as the episode progresses, he snaps out of it and remembers that actually acting like a hero matters more than the recognition. Fair enough. But we've already had arcs somewhat similar
I
to
gotta-
this, and beyond that,
I gotta
can't help
Play that. I have no idea what he's talking about.
over gaining this video game character's admiration, and... Listen, I get the idea here. Ben has his blinders on because he's hyper-focused on this guy. Then as the episode progresses, he snaps out of it and remembers that actually acting like a hero matters more than the recognition. Fair enough. But we've already had arcs somewhat similar to this, and
I don't know what you're talking about, Lord. I'm sorry. Yes, we had episodes like this, but the one in the video game is just not really the same as the others. I don't know. I feel like it's a whole new. I don't know. I don't think Ben acts any differently in the video game. I just don't. He acts the same.
beyond that, I can't help but spend this whole
Shelby
episode
won.
agreeing with Gwen. Ben is being really dumb. And yes, I know people can be dumb. Who do you think's talking to you right now? But my complaint isn't related to realism. It's related to wanting the show to try new things, to push itself further, and to just not recycle so many ideas.
If I'm not mistaken, he was trying to impress that Sumo Slammer guy because Gwen was doing way better than Ben.
Ben should have seriously developed by now, not just regressed. Now,
In my opinion, to back it up, it was probably because he couldn't use the Omnitrix because he needed those power-ups to transform, so he's probably feeling a little bit weak. So him being a little bit cocky is probably that reason. That's how I can back that up.
oh, I should still give credit where credit is due, though. The show does some interesting stuff with this video game gimmick. Like, we get to see this Japanese-inspired world, and we haven't seen anything like that yet in this series. There are also unique enemy designs, these alien tokens Ben has to pick up, Grandpa pausing the game and helping them fight. All of these lean into the episode's central conceit.
Yeah, I guys play the Cartoon Network. CartoonNetwork.com had a video game like this. 2D, pretty fun. It was too hard
Even
for
if
me.
think they
I
could
couldn't
push
beat
this
it.
a bit further, I still appreciate what's here. Regardless, though, for me, these strengths can't quite save this episode from mediocrity. Unfortunately, the next episode is far worse, though. See, the gang has gone to this amusement park where some shows are filmed, and Ben is going to meet his hero.
Yeah, this is a
Kangaroo
bad
Commando.
episode.
At the same time, though, Ben is mad because this animator has stolen his aliens' designs for a children's cartoon. Let's start with Ben. Ben is awful this episode. First, he has this obsession with gaining Kangaroo Commando's admiration, which in and of itself would be fine. This guy is his hero after all, and we see him saving people. But the problem is that Ben throws so many of his good traits away in pursuit of this guy's acceptance. Mainly, this comes up with this animator. See, the animator...
You know what? I'm going to defend Ben. It's every superhero. Every superhero that I have watched, like for example, Ultimate Spider-Man. I think when he met Wolverine, he was acting a little bit different. Or no, Iron Man. Like Spider-Man, Iron Man. No, and then you got Batman. The Flash. The Flash is, I think he's a fan of Batman. Or the Green Lantern, I don't know. But anyways, you would be kind of acting a little bit funny around someone you look up to.
is very obviously framed for blowing up an amusement park ride, and Gwen is quick to notice that it probably wasn't him. So she defends and advocates for this guy because otherwise he's going to get in deep trouble for something he didn't do, and someone else who's actually dangerous will still be on the loose. Ben's response? He gets mad at her, like really ticked off. I really didn't think that he would still be this selfish and self-centered.
No. Bro, I have to rewatch this episode. I can't remember it, but I am pretty sure that's a pretty reasonable thing. It's like, hold up. I gotta rewatch what he said.
And someone else who's actually dangerous will still be on the loose. Ben's response? He gets mad at her, like really ticked off. I really didn't think that he would still be this selfish and self-centered, especially when so many episodes have focused on him learning to be less selfish and self-centered. I mean, if he's just going to be like this, what was the point of all those episodes? Sure, this episode has some alien fights and all that, but none of it is all that fresh or new. Like, sure, I guess these could be fun if this was the first episode I saw, but this far in? Well, it doesn't have anything too elevated above previous fights, so in the end, I would rather just go watch.
Ben getting mad is justified because, like, I'm gonna say Iron Man, right? Let's say Iron Man was in our world and was saving people, and he got arrested. I mean, how would you feel for like saving people? Now, I know that's not the same thing with Kangaroo, but Ben doesn't know Kangaroo is a bad person. So,
Another episode. At least the next episode is a bit better.
dang it. 2 ads, Laura? Are you serious?
Grandpa gets tired of Ben and Gwen ignoring their chores. He takes them to a farm to learn the value of
Yes.
a little hard work.
That's my boy,
However, it quickly
Grandpa
becomes
Max.
apparent that something is wrong. A mummy-like alien is on the loose, and it's hunting for an extremely dangerous energy source. This episode does have some fun moments. After all, the obvious arc here would be that Ben and Gwen learn to love working at the farm, or at least they appreciate their
Nope.
time there. But no. Instead, we get a genuinely funny punchline where Ben and Gwen beg to not go back there, and Grandpa says,
Oh, thank goodness. I'd forgotten how much I hated working on Uncle Jedediah's farm when I was a kid.
The unexpected nature of this anti-message got a good laugh out of me. Beyond that, though, it really doesn't have much going on. Oddly enough, I started off thinking it would, because in the opening scene, we see this farm boy being made fun of and bullied, so of course I go, hey, I guess we're going to learn more about this guy this episode.
No one
Maybe he'll
cares
grow
about him.
because he sees Ben and Gwen fighting. But no, nothing happens with this kid.
No one
He
cares
exists
about
as little
him.
more than a tool to tell Ben and Gwen where they need to go next. I would have loved for him to take the role of the side character who receives a bit of development, like Steel or the
Oh, okay. So you care about this nobody, and you want to roast, Good Elf, Goodsman. I don't know that elf. How dare you?
champion from season 2, but that's just not the case. This isn't a terrible episode or anything, but man, I just really wish there was more to dig into here. Anyway, on to the next episode. This time, the Little League World Series is coming up.
This is a fire
And
episode.
Ben realizes that the
It's a
team he
fire
would have been
episode.
playing with if he hadn't gone on this road trip have managed to make it in. Ben is understandably a little disappointed by this. He feels like he's missing out, but he's also annoyed because his bullies are on the team now too. However, they're facing off against the Squires, a team that is far from normal. In fact, as Gwen quickly realizes, they have an almost perfect all-around record, which should be impossible. So something is suspicious here. On a logical level, this episode's really silly because the villain's plan just doesn't make much sense. After all, the Forever Knights have made
Yes, it does. They planned it so the president, like, I don't know, the Forever Knights team, they made this record, and they wanted the president, so the president, flew over because he wanted to see this team in action, right? So the Forever Knights seen this, they were like, all right, we gotta replace the president with the robot president that we have. That these robots are duplicating people. Now that sounds very confusing. Just trust me, it makes sense if you're a Ben 10 fan. If
this team out of robots because they know the president will come to see this game.
Yep.
Then they'll use this opportunity to kidnap him, make him a robot, and control the country. A bit of a roundabout way of doing it, but whatever. I'm still with you. But then we learn that they named the robots after some of the greatest players in history? Why? Wouldn't someone notice that? Actually, how is Gwen the first person to realize this? Additionally, if this is the plan, maybe don't have them play and win in such superhuman ways. That might give it away. But these things honestly aren't a huge deal for me. Nah, my real problems come here. This one tries to teach Ben the very in-depth message that you shouldn't cheat, kids. The way we go about this is that he starts off the episode using gray matter to count jelly beans at the carnival and win a music player. But the moral message is somewhat murky because it looks like the carnival is cheating too. So in my mind, Ben's cheating really isn't all that big of a deal. I think this would have been a good opportunity for another anti-message, but the episode decidedly doesn't go that way, with Grandpa ending off by saying that Ben didn't deserve that music pocket. Maybe my morals are skewed here, I don't know. I just don't think it was that big of a deal that he cheated a cheating carnival out of a music pocket. Alright, so that's a little bit of an issue, but what about the character stuff? Ben having to inadvertently help his bullies win by stopping the robot
Is a
team might
W.
be cool, right? But I didn't really feel much from this. This isn't treated as much of a conflict at all. Maybe if Ben had opened up to Gwen and...
it did, because I think Ben did the right thing, even though he probably didn't mean to do the right thing. The other team was made out of robots, So
Grandpa
it's
more
pretty
about how
fair.
these boys affected him, it could have landed more for me. Actually, they could have gone the opposite direction and have this really cathartic moment where Ben looks at them and says, I don't care about you anymore. I've grown past you. But I didn't get any moment
We don't get that into Alien Force season 1 and season 2. Ben really grew in Alien Force.
like that, at least not one that connected with me. Overall, this is another mediocre, bland episode that honestly I would have rather skipped. Now, if you've been
No.
keeping track
You
of these
have to
episodes,
watch
you
the
might have
episode.
noticed something. We aren't doing great. I only liked one episode so far, and the rest have been, at best, mediocre for me. But it can't stay like that, right? I mean, of course it has to get better. Right, Ben? Right, Ben? Right, Ben? No, things are about to get worse. Way worse, because Ben himself is about to become absolutely insufferable. If one thing...
What do you mean? Okay, let me think about it. Season 3, classic Ben 10. Let's think about when Ben was insufferable. Let's think about this. Is he talking about the when Grandpa Max wanted to go to that music thingy, Barbara? I don't know. It's a storm. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking.
Has remained true throughout the show. It's that Ben has an immense amount of respect for Grandpa. Sure, sometimes he can be a brat. Sometimes he can make mistakes. But he definitely looks up to Grandpa, especially following all the plumber stuff. Heck, we had a whole episode where that was a huge
What
focus.
episode is this?
So now what are we gonna do?
Oh, yeah.
Well, over the course of the
This is...
next 4 episodes,
This is-
we're going to take something that has been consistent.
This episode... This is gonna shock you, lowart. Is very popular. Only the scene where Ben's doing parkour and crap, jumps on the alien, goes guitar, 4 arms with the 2 guitars, bro.
Instantly likable about Ben, and we're gonna change that, baby.
Action in the scene, bro. He's fighting the freaking storm monster in the city with heat blast, I believe.
Yeah,
Crazy.
because now it's time for Ben to learn some lessons about respecting Grandpa.
And Sam.
Oh, and Gwen too, because it's not like we already did that at the end of the last season and at multiple other points throughout the show.
I don't know what
Anyway, this episode
I don't know what you're talking about, lowart. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
is... Well,
Sam.
let's start with the
I
positives.
think it's Sam.
There's a cool weather-based battle that's pretty fun.
SAM.
I mean, Ben rocking it
Yeah.
out, shredding the guitar. It's really extra in a way that I like quite a bit. Also, Accelerate playing the drums
Yep.
is great.
It's
Fun time.
There's so many iconic moments in this show. If you watch, if you listen to AMVs of Ben 10, if you look at I don't know, screenshots or posts, it's mostly of Accelerate playing the drums or 4 arms rocking in and out with the guitars.
But these good bits are easily overshadowed for me by the other parts of this episode. This time, the gang is at a music festival that Grandpa is really stoked for. But Ben doesn't care.
I don't
he wants
care.
To be at some
I don't care either. I don't blame Ben. I don't give a damn about this.
sumo
Either.
slammer event. And
Yeah, bro. Imagine, I'm sorry, Lord, you must have the perfect line. Imagine, dude, imagine you wanted to, I don't know, let's see, for me, I wanted to go to a Rubik's Cube competition, but I had to go to my sister's play instead, because she couldn't be by herself. So, could you imagine, I missed the Rubik's Cube competition. Oh my
That'd
gosh.
be one thing
I
if he was just a
understand.
bit
I understand.
disappointed, but instead, he is such a jerk to Grandpa.
What's more important, getting a new Digi download or some sea alien trash that I kick butt on, or staying here just because you say so?
Hey, the Shag Carpeting Autograph booth. So who wants to come to the booth?
The Golden Gate Bridge and just some amazing photos.
Add.
His teeth with my tongue and wait in line to get those fossils autographs.
Could you be any ruder?
Now,
Shut up, Gwen. I am defending Ben. He's absolutely right. I agree with him.
Some of you might be thinking something like, lowart, Ben is a child, an actual child. Why are you surprised?
Actually, I will agree with you. From life experience, I understand what Ben's going through. I would not tell you Ben's a child. I would tell you what my life.
When a child acts like this? All right, you straw man that I created for the sake of convenience. First off,
What's the
I
reason?
don't care if he's a kid. Being a kid doesn't work as an excuse for me because, sure, kids can be annoying and I'll definitely give them more leeway with their mistakes than adults, but they don't have to be. The writers chose to make Ben a brat here.
lowart, I want you to make a series, please. Like, make a comic book or something, and I don't know, dude. I don't know what he's talking about.
Chose to have him backpedal on previous lessons, chose to take one of the few things that I could like about him and make me go through this lesson just for him to basically return to the status quo. If you enjoy this, then that's totally fair. But the idea that Ben is going to act this way because he's a kid, or that it inherently justifies this conflict, no, not for me. Unfortunately, the next episodes are just as bad. This is the first two-parter in the series, and boy, oh boy, does it drag.
Oh
Again.
no. lowart. Dude. Bro, part 1 and part 2 of Alien Force. I mean, not Alien. What the, oh my gosh. I mean, part 1 and part 2 of Ghost Freak Returns. It literally is jam-packed with action. We see character development. One uses her magic, so that tells us that she's been practicing off camera. Ben is pretty good in this episode. There's nagging, but there's no fighting between Ben and Gwen. But nagging, Grandpa Max, best character in the entire series, way better than reboot. Dr. Victor transforming to Frankenstrike is the best. Mommy versus Werewolf, good fight. Ben Strike versus Ghost Freak in Space, best fight. Upgrade fighting Dr. Victor and destroying him, good fight. Ben versus Mummy, good fight. Like, I can name all the fights.
That's mainly because of Ben. Ben is awful here.
No,
Remember
he's-
how he learned to respect Gwen
What?
more and how he's always respected
How
Gwen?
how is he awful? I want to know. How is he awful?
Scrap that. That never happened.
What is
now
it?
we're about to see him learn that lesson again, folks. Woo!
What is it?
Woo! Because at the start,
What
he's
is-
acting like a complete jerk for one reason. He sees himself as the one true hero in this group.
Ben, Gwen,
Oh, that's nothing. Like, that's your reason. That's like, I would be like that too if I had the arm tricks. Like, bro, I'm gonna have to learn multiple lessons.
and I can help.
That's funny, Grandpa.
Oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, we did this before.
Oh my gosh, it's not that bad. Like, is this the only thing? This can't be the only thing. Does this part just ruin the entire episode for you, lowart? I need to know.
As he says after they possibly save his life,
No offense, but you guys were just on cleanup. Everyone knows my aliens lead, you and Grandpa follow.
Ben, what? Where is this coming from? What happened to those lessons you learned at the end of season 1 or the end of season 2? What happened to your personality, Ben? What changed, Ben? I need to know, Ben! Damn it! Here's what makes this even worse. This isn't just a lesson that Ben already learned. He's now more wrong than he's ever been. Because
Explain.
Gwen isn't just a bit more clever than him now. No, she can use magic, something that is incredibly useful and that he cannot do. It's such a shame too, because if it weren't for how absolutely awful Ben is in this episode and how annoying it is to see him regress, I could see myself enjoying some of this. Because Ghost Freak is back, baby, and he has a horrifying plan that will basically result in the
I think I'm gonna defend Ben. I think the reason why he's acting like this, I think it's because he I think he doesn't want to see Gwen or Grandpa Max getting hurt, so he puts himself in front. Even though it is kind of the wrong way to go about it, I think he's doing it I think that's the reason.
Destruction of the whole world. Also, the groundwork for this was laid in previous episodes, so there's a neat aha moment where everything starts.
You know what? As a little kid, I did not. Bro, you don't even know this is important to this. The 2 episodes come out, so
It's clicking together, but I just don't care. I can't bring myself to. Any potentially cool ideas are marred by Ben's attitude, by the fact that I can't stop thinking, wow, I wish we had a different main character. Or maybe we could just have the Ben from the end of season 1 back.
Explain, please.
That'd be fine. I didn't mind that kid. In fact, I thought he was pretty cool. But alas, we're stuck with this.
What does he do?
This guy.
What's wrong with him?
I mean, Gwen and Grandpa consistently prove their.
We're back at the bus scene. I swear, is this part where this ruins the entire?
But still, Ben treats them like crap. And the end of this
It's not-
stupid
no, he
retreading
doesn't.
of old lessons that Ben
Nags.
already learned, the end result of this regression in his character for 40 minutes, the way he makes up for it.
I still say things would have gone a lot smoother if you two just let me handle everything myself.
So, after all that, how do they...
Probably don't know this, Lower, but he has a failsafe. He has a failsafe. That's how I defend it. Lower, you just not disproved me wrong.
go about wrapping up this conflict for Ben? Well, he says...
All right, all right.
Okay, I will have to admit, you are right that Ben's wrong of, what is it, doing things on his own. You're all right about that. But I am saying it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's like, I don't even really care when he does that.
I guess we are pretty good at kicking butt together. Team?
Team. No, Ben. Not team. Not team at all.
What do you
Remember
mean?
in the first season when Ben showed genuine remorse after the Kevin incident? What happened to that? When did we lose sight of these?
Wait a minute. How is he going to talk about this and not bring back Grandpa Max with the Forever Knights? Remember how Grandpa Max was like, oh, thank goodness the mask didn't fall and he didn't care about Ben's safety.
Characters so thoroughly that this is Ben.
What happened to
Really,
Grandpa
Ben
Max?
isn't back to where he was at the start of season 1. He's worse, and I don't know why he's regressed so much.
This week, buy 1 foot long in the app, get one for free. That's right. Order today.
The stars of the WNBA are bringing it this.
But guess what? The pain train continues to chug along mercilessly because the final episode of this season really isn't much better. Here, the game is returned to the place where...
Listen, I know this episode is... Bro, this episode to the fans, this episode is so important. Especially because after this episode, I think the movie comes out, right? Yeah, I think the movie comes out after this season. This episode. Yeah, this is a very important episode because we learn that Ben wasn't supposed to have the Omnitrix. It was meant for Max Tennyson because it actually makes sense because he's a plumber. We learn more about the how the Omnitrix was sent to Earth and things like that. I think it's very important.
Grandpa met his wife, and it's clear that he misses her. Gwen is quickly able to pick up on this, but Ben? No. As he says,
How can Grandpa be lonely when we're around him all the time?
Ben, even you can't be that clueless. Following this, an alien appears who Grandpa's got some interest in, if you know what I'm saying. But Ben...
Hey man, he banged the Anatite. I mean, he's freaky, bro. Grandpa Max be freaky
Ben is
sometimes.
not having it. he goes really far here. I mean, he absolutely can't stand this woman, and there's really no reason for it outside of the fact that he's being a bit possessive of Grandpa, which, if this was one of his few faults or something, sure, that's fine. I could get behind that conflict. But when we keep having additional ways that
You know, I would have to agree with lowart here. I don't think the episode gives a reason why he doesn't like her. Actually, I don't think I have a reason why. I don't know.
Ben sucks, I just want to grab him by the shoulders and shake his little body and tell him to stop the madness. And I want a different protagonist. Please give me a different protagonist. But there's still some potential, because we learned that this alien woman was the one who sent the Omnitrix to Earth.
Yep.
Why? Well, because she wanted Grandpa to get it, but it was slightly off course, and then Ben got to it first. I really, really like this. The writers took what I accepted as a simple coincidence and gave it a plot-based reason that makes perfect sense because of Grandpa's past. Awesome. However, the thing I'm really interested in here is Ben's reaction to this. I mean, he's tied up so much of his self-worth in...
Yeah, I love Ben's reaction. He shows anger and you see like a little sadness. I kind of feel bad for Ben, in a way.
In this watch. So what happens if he starts to feel like maybe, just maybe,
turns into a badass?
Him even getting the watch in the first place was a huge mistake. After this, Gwen sits down and talks with Ben, trying to comfort him. It's a nice moment for her, and that's it though. The episode barely stops to focus on this before we're back into the action, which, yeah, there's a new alien, so that's neat, but still, this is another case where I can see so much potential for Ben, but it's basically being brushed aside. Really, there's a great idea here, but the execution is very lacking. Now, I gotta be fair, so I'll give the episode this. At the end, Ben genuinely apologizes to Grandpa, and he says that his happiness is the most important. Basically, if Grandpa wants to leave with this alien woman and be happy, then he should do it. In and of itself, this is a nice moment. I appreciate that Ben actually seems to have remorse for how he acted and that he's willing to make a sacrifice. But it's hard for me to take this all that seriously when Ben has already walked back on so many of his supposed changes. Really, the idea that Ben is going to retain any of these lessons is starting to feel like a bad joke. To some, my annoyance with this season might seem overblown or ridiculous.
Yep.
But it doesn't come from a mean place. I'm ticked off because I wanted to enjoy this. I saw a lot of potential for interesting conflicts, for growth, for creativity to shine through. Heck, this season's first episode had me really excited.
Yeah, I really, I would have to agree with you, Lower. I think there should have been more episodes on Ghost Freak. I don't think Ben Wolf and the Mommy episode, those two, were good enough. Could have had, 2 more at least.
Excited for where things were gonna go. So I'm just disappointed. Disappointed that Ben is getting worse, that villains aren't improving, that the watch isn't being used in as many fun ways, that somehow, despite its awesome promise, this show is more often boring than it is exciting for me, and more often frustrating than it is compelling. None of this is to say that you're wrong if you enjoy these conflicts for other reasons, but all the reasons I enjoy stories, this show lost most of them this season. And honestly, now we're at a point where I just don't trust the show. When there are the inevitable conflicts based on Ben learning something in season 4, I'm going to be stuck going, is this a real lesson? Or is he just going to forget it in an episode or 2? I do not have high hopes going into season 4.
Okay, season 4, Ben. I feel like season 4, Ben, Gwen, and Max, they're a lot chiller. I don't know, I think they're a lot chiller. There might be some nagging, but I can't remember any parts that they're annoying in season 4.
And I'm done. Nah, I need to finish this journey through OG Ben 10. And despite everything I've said here, I'll try my best to keep an open mind. After all, I've seen this show succeed. So who's to say that it couldn't succeed again? Maybe, just maybe, the last season will be so good.
Laura, why are you showing this? You did not like this episode.
That I can say that this show was as great as we remember. Either way, thank you so much for watching.
It is. I rewatched it how many times did I rewatch Ben 10? Let's see here. I rewatch classics so many times I can't tell you. I rewatched Ben 10 Ultimate Alien in Omniverse Link. Bro, I don't want to embarrass myself. Probably close to 8 times. Yeah, no, I've seen Alien Force a lot. I think it's like 8 or 5 I've seen. And, like, and this was, I replayed this when I was like, the last time I seen the entire episodes of Ben 10 was 2 years ago. So I watched Ben 10 too much. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this episode. You guys have a nice day. And tell me if you guys want to see number 4. Alright, bye.